and basically just tried to network a little bit and figure out what to do. And at some point, I'm trying to remember how I ended up from Blaine to Birch Bay. I believe that I met someone through somebody, and they said you could stay at our house for the night, and he had kids. Or maybe it was someone else. Anyway, it was one of these things where somebody that I already knew drove me to a different place where I had a place to stay. So I had to stay with dozens of strangers, and I was never sexually involved with any of them, but most of them were men, because men were the only ones typically that were willing to just take some strange person to their house and give them a floor or bed or something to sleep on, or couch or whatever. So I was very degraded. I was completely degraded by this country and by Canada, into having to take to sleep on total strangers' floors and be put in extremely dangerous positions, and really asking, basically imposing on other people. And I ended up in Birch Bay, where I got a job, and I felt that getting a job was actually first. I was at this one restaurant, and I was looking for work. I'd already gone to a bunch of restaurants and businesses and asked around. And I was still injured, so I knew I couldn't work full-time, but I thought I could maybe try to work part-time. And I wasn't being tortured in the same way either. I wasn't being tortured to the excessive levels where I was cooked, and my son was cooked. Being cooked alive, basically, in East Wenatchee. So the pain levels were obviously different. It wasn't as bad. And I looked for part-time work, and then I was eating at a restaurant, and someone showed up and they wanted to talk to me, or we started talking. And then they said, well, I live on a, this guy said, I live on a Lions camp place, and there's sort of a hostel there, he said. So maybe you could ask if you could just pay a little bit of money to stay at the hostel. There's not really anyone there right now. And, hostels, of course, that sounded like a good idea. I'd have some privacy. I wouldn't have to stay with, other people. Exactly, it would be a hostel at the time, until I found work and was able to fight the criminal actions of the United States and Canada. And, basically, look at what has happened since then. I'm in a much different place, right? I mean, all they've done is torture me, harass me, degrade me, torture my son, degrade my son. This country has done nothing good in the last 7 years. And basically in the last 11 years, from the time that my cousin Shar was impregnated by this Italian American who just came out of the woodwork because he knew some of my adversaries and wanted to get close to my cousin. From that time, and the time that people have really been working hard for the Middletons, there really has not been any nothing good has happened. The FBI has prosecuted who? The police have prosecuted who? There hasn't been one, out of all of the crimes that have been committed against me, not one single thing has been done for me in court to take care of the situation, of any situation that was illegal. Never. And you would think, that when I've already mentioned how many different individuals and given you different facts for crimes they've committed, which you can see line up to crimes, and it's not very hard to get the evidence to prove those facts. Out of maybe 50 individuals that I've already mentioned so far, not one single person has been prosecuted or gone to jail or anything. And yet all of these horrible things have been done to me and my son. So when I did come across the border, I thought it was really interesting that after having been raped multiple times by people in the United States who are connected to government, that they gave me this, oh, here's your document for your restraining order. Like that, I mean, that was the one court document that I ever got from the United States through all this time, and it wasn't even because of the police. Law enforcement did nothing for me. I had to get that document with a woman advocating with me to get it, and the court gave that to me. That's the only, that out of all of the crimes that I committed against me and my son, the only thing that they have to show for it is, we did give you a restraining order on this guy from Cuba. What about the restraining orders on the horrible people that are running the United States and Canada? I mean, I just get a court document because what, the Cuban guy isn't really connected to that many people in the U.S., or maybe he was also connected to law enforcement and I didn't know. And they never even prosecuted that, they never processed that rape kit. It's not like they did anything about him. I had one flimsy piece of paper. And that's all that the United States has to show for themselves. For all of these things that I've reported. And all the things that their criminals have done. And I'm going to take a break right now and talk more about the things that happen next in a little while. That's not going to be... Oh, justice is blind, isn't it? Right? Justice is blind. Has no favorites. Justice for all, right?